After the first week of joining, my weeks were basically stacked with interviews with different companies. Previously, applied 34 companies, had 2 interviews without any kind of higher levels assistance. And then as soon as I joined you guys and honed in my approach, I applied to 21 companies and had 7 interviews, from about a 6% conversion to a 33% conversion.
Hey everyone, really excited this week to speak with Mitchell, who just broke into Pigment coming out of Canada. Mitchell, a lot to break down. Really excited for you, obviously. Maybe as a starting point for everyone watching, just setting the stage of your background, and then we'll start to break it down from there.
Yeah, of course. Thanks so much, Eric. So my background's a bit unconventional. 2 years ago, I was working as a personal trainer at a luxury boutique gym up in Toronto. So that was my first real experience with sales, because obviously we would come in and we would train people, but we only got paid on the clients that we would sell on training. So that was where I got my first real experience. Right after that, or alongside that, I started running a business with a colleague of mine. And the purpose of that business was really not to become an entrepreneur, but it was really to get our hands and feet wet in a real world setting where we could almost have like a course pay us to gain knowledge. So we ended up learning a lot about sales, product, marketing, how to actually like bring something to market and have it, be successful. And right from there, I knew right away, okay, sales was going to be it for me. Coming out of that job, I actually ended up going into sort of a niche sort of career field. It was a guerrilla street marketing and advertising agency that operated nationwide and in the States as well. So we would do things like street art, murals, billboards. And I worked alongside the owner of that company, doing all kinds of things from logistics to the manual work, but then also dealing with some of the inbound lead qualification and sales. And in that whole experience, it just truly dialed in that, okay, sales is where I should be focusing. That's where I'm finding the most enjoyment and the most satisfaction from a challenge of that kind of level, which led me to you and your course and pursuing tech and obviously breaking into a great company and getting started from there.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love the collection of experiences, even maybe not directly like tech or tech sales. That's tons of great stuff, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, I'm sure. I'd love to understand too, like as you start to hone in on tech sales, prior to joining higher levels, had you tried applying yourself? Had you done anything? Like what was kind of that progression towards tech sales leading up to joining higher levels?
No, great question. So I had known that I wanted to make a pivot away from sales in different industries and hone in on tech specifically. So I made that decision back around December, which was like about 4 or 5 months ago. And from there, I did some research into it. I was just mainly untargeted YouTube videos. I didn't join up any other courses, but I decided to just like, hey, I want to get out of this job and get into a new job in a fresh field. Let me just start applying. So I fixed up my resume. I had a couple friends look at it. And then I had actually applied to 34 companies just blindly, spray and pray. I didn't really know too much about these companies, just seeing what would happen. And then I actually got interviews with 2 companies. The first company, I went into it, no prep. And I got screened out in the first round interview. And I remember watching one of your videos afterwards specifically where you said, if you go into an interview thinking you're just going to wing it based off your personality, like you're not going to get the job. And it was very true. So that first one screened out first rounds. Oh no. So I went, did a bunch of research, and that's where I actually came across your YouTube content and really dove deep into it. So I applied what you had just online for free, and I made it all the way to a 5th round final interview with my second company, basically from everything you had posted. So right from there, even though I didn't get that job, I was like, oh, okay, there's actually something here. I actually came really close. But instead of going through all that process again and identifying the unknowns with brand new companies, I decided to just invest a little bit of money in my own education, sign up with the course, and that led us to here.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I love to see the effort. Like, honestly, I think, I'm sure we'll talk about it more and what you got out of the course, but kudos to you for also throwing yourself in there. Like some of the best things you can learn are honestly by failing fast and early. And then, yeah, by the time the right opportunity comes up, you're more than prepared. It sounds like too, you did a lot of research. I'm just curious, if you considered other programs or what kind of ultimately led you to choose higher levels over the sea of options out there.
Yeah, you know what? I basically just there was a couple YouTube channels that were sort of informing me. Tech is the New Black being one of them, you guys being another one. I know that there's another big course. I actually didn't even really look at them or consider them just because it was your content that brought me to that final round interview. You like your YouTube videos were actually solving direct challenges that I was having as I was going through. So I really just knew like, well, if your free content has so much value in it, the paid stuff has got to be a gold mine. So really, I just jumped in where I found the most effectiveness, which happened to be your content, and went from there, and it worked out great for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And really great perspective too, because I think that's one thing, we try and give a lot of value on YouTube. There's just limits to how deep we can go and all of these different things. So I'd love to really tap into your experience having used a lot of our free content and had some success. Yeah. What was the most valuable portion or portions of the higher levels program as well, compared to some of the free content on YouTube?
Yeah, for sure. So there was a couple of things within the course that really carried me through at the most crucial moments. Specifically, the workbook for like the interview tracker. That was just a really great way to demonstrate or even practice doing the job before you get the job, right? How to prospect into companies, how to find those decision makers, and how to engage with them. The whole section on like, keeping track of your own metrics and your own conversions when it comes to landing interviews and going through those interview process like rounds. Also keeping track of the decision makers, and then how to outbound message them. Like, how do you send those cold emails, those cold DMs? Like, what kind of cadence and follow-up frequency do you have? That was really a great place for me to get started and like take like a messy, unorganized approach from before and turn it into something that like is actionable every single day. So first and foremost, that was huge. Secondly, the live webinar rooms, the live chats on Wednesdays and Thursdays with you and Chris and Ryan. The resume review was amazing. Really, my resume was maybe about 95% of the way there, and Ryan just took it to 100%. So that was great. And then that resume served me really well. And then also our conversations. So in the mentoring live calls, me and you helped me out with the case study. That was like a very intense presentation. And that directly, went to an outcome of me getting passed on that round and then going on to a fourth round and ultimately landing the job. That was huge. And lastly, one of the biggest resources that I found within the course was actually the archived videos of all the past live calls. So when I jumped in, instead of just waiting for next Wednesday to happen and joining the call for the first time, I went back to the call archive and I watched the last 10 live calls you guys had, or 15 live calls. And that was like, it's like 13, 14 hours worth of content right there. People asking questions, maybe some were related, maybe some weren't related, but it helped me fill in knowledge gaps that, of questions that I wasn't even aware might be asked. So that was huge, and it gave me a big confidence boost to go into interviews knowing what other people had went through and how you had helped them solve their problems. So that was great.
No, I love it, man. That's awesome to hear. I had no idea you went to those lengths. So
yeah, I did my research. I didn't just show up in the first chat with like, hey guys, like, what's up? I had studied you guys.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, man. And I love it because like exactly that, like no individual is exactly the same as you, but there are so many common themes and so many common things that people have to figure out and overcome throughout this process. So kudos to you for taking advantage of everything that was available to you. I know your final round interview was one of the most intense I've ever seen. So credit to you for taking advantage not only of the recordings and the modules, but also showing up to the live call. I know we had a chance to really kind of sharpen everything and get really precise. I'd love it if you could share, what you're able to about the job that you landed and some of the key learnings throughout the interview process and everything that was involved with it.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. So first and foremost, I think that just demonstrating that you can do the job before you get the job is crucial to land with any company, but especially a company that really is dialed in or a company you really want to work for. So just showing that you can prospect into them, who to message, how to follow up with them, how to engage with them, just shows that you have that level of dedication and commitment to landing the role, which I think is instrumental to actually getting the job. But then also it would be like, because you're coming from, or most people or everybody in the course is coming from outside of tech or like a tech sales role specifically, you have to think that like you're competing against people with tons of experience. The job market's really, really flooded. So when you're going into those interviews or when you're engaging with that hiring manager or director of sales or whoever it is, you need to have them think, no doubt in their mind, that you're the best candidate for the role. So doing your research and doing a lot of research before really helped me push through all the interview rounds and land the job. Like, I cannot think that I'm going to come in there and wow them with a good personality or, you know, sweet talk my way to a final round interview and beat out people who know what they're talking about and have had years of experience on paper, maybe doing the same exact job that you're applying for. So saying that, thinking that, oh, you need to stand out, but in a way that showcases your skills and highlights them. And then also just showing that, like, yeah, you're teachable. You're here to learn. Like, you want to learn from the best. You want to engage with other intellectual people or people who are pushing the boundaries or trying to innovate within their teams. So I think that really, having that mindset and applying it to the interview round really pushed me through to the final. And I'd really recommend everybody think about that when they're going into these interview rounds.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. And just for everyone's reference too, like when I say, you know, you took advantage of the live calls, like you showed up and had already done a substantial amount of research and we're coming to the table saying, what do you think? As opposed to showing up and saying like, what should I do? So credit to you for putting in all that effort, man. It really showed and paid off. I know you got a really strong salary in addition to a great company as well. And and your second week, you're getting flown out all expenses to France. So yeah, not a bad start, but
I can't complain about that.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, man. And maybe kind of working towards the close, one or two more questions. I guess one, just for everyone's reference, I know you had talked about kind of going about it your own, leveraging YouTube, and then joining Higher Levels. From when you joined Higher Levels to when you got your offer, what was that rough time frame?
That, I think, if I can remember correctly, was about 3-4 weeks.
Wow.
I think it was 3-4 weeks. And basically I had, from the first week I joined Higher Levels, I had my resume fixed like within a couple days, like up to your guys' standards. And then I was applying the interview tactics, prospecting into companies by the end of the first week. So really I had, as I had gone previously, applied 34 companies, had 2 interviews without any kind of Higher Levels assistance. And then as soon as I joined you guys and honed in my approach, I applied to 21 companies and had 7 interviews. So I went from about a 6% conversion to a 33% conversion right off of that. So after the first week of joining, my weeks were basically stacked with interviews with different companies. So
wow,
yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, it was a great turnaround and like, honestly, the best money I ever spent.
No, it's so cool, man. And I mean, this has been amazing, like a really great deep dive. I think there's so many great nuggets here for anyone watching. Maybe as a final question, if there's anything, kind of wide open question, if that's fair, of just anything throughout this process, or maybe to someone that was in your shoes in December when you started self-pacing on YouTube and kind of working towards breaking in, is there any 1 or 2 pieces of advice you'd give to someone looking at tech sales and trying to break in like yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So just a couple quick things I can throw out. I say start sooner, right? Like all the time you sit around waiting, like you could just start applying to companies. Whether you go for a course, whether you decide maybe tech sales isn't even for you, you don't know until you start trying and start feeling and understanding what's going to be most important to you and what resonates. So don't waste time sitting around humming and hawing, like just get out there, start having those conversations. And then secondly, like do your research. If you're going to come into a company or put yourself in the position where you're on a live call with like another real person, you know, they're taking the time out of their busy day to meet with you and interview you. Take the time on your end and do research on the company, right? Pull your end of the weight and it's going to show in the interview, right?
No, Mitchell, this was really great. I mean, obviously really excited for you. I know you got a great opportunity. Gonna hit the ground running for sure. I have no doubt 6 to 12 months from now, you're going to be a top performer, if not significantly sooner. So very excited to see that pay off and really appreciate all the insights today. So yeah, thanks, man.
Hey, thank you so much. And thank you for all your work. Really, it means a lot to me.